Hi, it's Katrina. Number 10. Ergenicon. The Ergenicon epic is a myth of survival for the Turkish people. It's a story, or rather a collection of stories, that goes back thousands of years. The primary myth connected to the Ergenicon epic is one that tells the story of when the Turkish people were faced with extinction, and they escaped thanks to the help from a god in the form of a gray wolf. They escaped to a place detailed in the epic as a great valley in the mountains. Now, excavations in Kazakhstan have revealed what experts believe could be the actual location spoken of in the Ergenekon epic, suggesting the ancient story may have been based on something that actually happened, rather than a myth dreamed up and put in a book. Archaeologists began digging in 2012, with their first big discovery being the grave of a Turkish soldier. The man was buried with his horse, his weapons, and an immaculately preserved lute. Researchers also found the body of a Turkish poet, dating back to around the 6th century. But that's not even all they found. They continued to uncover iron tools, primitive stone shelters, and evidence of an old Turkish civilization. Professor Darhan Hidirali says all these things support the theory that this remote area of Kazakhstan could have been the actual location that the Turkish people fled to thousands of years ago. Number 9. Shipwreck treasure. Archaeologists in Israel have discovered the remains of 2 shipwrecks submerged at the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea. But what's truly fascinating is that these shipwrecks were discovered filled with sunken treasure from the days of the ancient Romans. The experts dug out hundreds and hundreds of medieval silver coins. They've already been dated to both the Roman and Mamluk periods, between 1700 and 600 years ago. Some of the Roman silver dates back to the 3rd century, while there are over 500 silver coins from later on in the Middle Ages, after the Roman Empire had already fallen. It's extremely rare that archaeologists actually find treasure in a sunken shipwreck. Normally, there's nothing left. The artifacts have decayed beyond recognition, or everything has been swept away by the ocean currents. But experts with the Israeli Antiquities Authority Marine Archaeology Unit spent 2 months conducting an underwater survey to make this discovery. And it was worth it, especially since they found more than just buried treasure. They also found old figurines, ceramics, and pieces of one of the ships itself, including nails and a broken iron anchor. The older Roman ship is believed to have originally come from Italy. The second ship is more of a mystery, since its medieval artifacts could have come from pretty much anywhere 600 years ago. International trade was already booming in Europe, so it's really hard to figure out the origin of the ship. Not much is left of it now, but some wet hunks of wood. Number 8. Ancient rock drawings in Saudi Arabia. Ancient rock drawings across the country of Saudi Arabia have been getting a lot of attention in recent years. These rock drawings were found ages ago, but the scientific community has not conducted much research on them. This is despite the fact that they are considered important sources for understanding the ancient civilizations that lived in the Arabian Peninsula. Finally, now, archaeologists and historians have taken an interest in these drawings. One of the most fascinating examples can be found near the southern Saudi Arabian city of Najran. The drawing here shows 2 women, one of them covered in jewelry and the other dancing. It also shows a man holding 3 spears, 2 of them in his right hand and 1 in his left. These weapons symbolize power, while the woman dancing and the woman covered in jewelry may symbolize an ancient war dance. According to Professor of Ancient History Salma Hassawi, the rock drawing could represent a kind of sacred ritual. Even more, this rock drawing and others like it can be found all throughout Saudi Arabia, along what was once an ancient trade route. There are drawings of camels, lions, and wolves, battles between knights and hunters. Many of them date back to 7,000 years ago during the Paleolithic Age, and some of the newest date to just a few hundred years ago. Why do you think the drawings seem to run along a route? Tell me your theories in the comments below. Number 7. Gravity-defying monument. Archaeologists have been left in shock by the discovery of a monument in the country of Myanmar that seems to defy gravity. It's called the Kaya Ik Tiyo Pagoda, or the Golden Rock, a popular Buddhist pilgrimage site. It can be found deep in the eastern Yoma Mountains, far from the eyes of any prying tourists. The pagoda is shrouded in the clouds, seeming to teeter precariously on the edge of a great abyss. It looks as though it should tumble over at any moment, and yet it never has. The local Buddhists believe the reason it keeps its balance is because of the Buddha's miraculous powers. Between the rock and the cliff that it's balanced on is said to be a strand of the Buddha's hair. The story goes back centuries. In Burmese myth, it's said that an ancient king encountered a Buddhist hermit who had been keeping a strand of Buddha's hair inside of his hat. The hermit offered the strand of hair to the king, suggesting that the king enshrined the hair in a new pagoda built on the edge of the cliff. The king then pulled a perfect rock from the bottom of the ocean, transported that to the top of the mountain, and balanced it at the edge, with the magical Buddha's hair keeping it from falling over. And it's stayed like that ever since. If you ask an archaeologist why the pagoda doesn't fall over, they'll say it's really just a stroke of luck. The truth is that we don't yet know how the pagoda was created, who managed to put the huge boulder on the edge of the mountain and paint it gold, or why it refuses to slide off. Either way, it's made the mountain one of the most famous spots in the entire country for Buddhist pilgrims from all over the world. Number 6. The worst year in history. Science has proved that the years between 536 and 541 were the worst in human history. In fact, scientists agree that these years would make the last 2 years of the global pandemic look like a walk in the park. A series of volcanic eruptions sent clouds of ash into the atmosphere, which led to an unbelievable chain of catastrophic events. Perpetual darkness blocked out the sunlight, plunging global temperatures and resulting in massive crop failure across the world. But even as most of the people on Earth struggled just to survive, there was one Pueblo society that seemed to do extraordinarily well. The society, a prehistoric Native American civilization, was living in the southwest of the United States. Archaeologists recently took a closer look at their lives to find out just how they managed to flourish and become even more advanced while the rest of the world struggled to find food to eat. Researchers did this by using carbon dating, looking at ancient examples of food grains discovered from as far back as the year 500. What they uncovered was that the people living on the Colorado Plateau adapted in a way that no one else on the planet did. They began growing crops in a more scattered way, which helped to feed all of their people. They also saw a boom in the building of housing structures all the way until the end of the 6th century. It seems that the secret ingredient to their success was cooperation on a large scale. Most of the people during this time were isolated bands of farmers, but the Puebloans came together under the perpetual darkness to hunt, forage, and grow their food collectively. Working as a collective community ultimately led to their survival, while the rest of the world was falling apart. Number 5. Ancient Stone Circle. Archaeologists believe they may have just discovered the original Stonehenge. A group of researchers from the University College London found a dismantled stone circle in Western Wales from 5,000 years ago. What's really amazing is that this disassembled stone circle was built extraordinarily close to the Blue Stone Quarry. For those who don't know, the Blue Stone Quarry was where the developers of Stonehenge got most of the original building blocks. They lugged them hundreds of miles across fields and forests to the site of Stonehenge. This actually happened centuries before the larger sarsen stones were brought from a much nearer distance of only 15 miles. But according to this new discovery, there was an original stone circle built beside the first quarry. The circle was about 361 feet in diameter, making it the third biggest great stone circle in Britain. But there wasn't much left when archaeologists found it. All they discovered were empty stone holes and 4 remaining pieces of rock badly decayed. Scientific dating of the sediments in the holes confirmed it was built around 3400 BC, or 400 years before the first stones were laid at Stonehenge. This original stone circle also appears to have been built to align with the midsummer solstice sunrise. The big question now is actually a two-parter. First, why did the ancient people who lived here disassemble the first stone circle? And second, why did they feel the need to bring the stones from the quarry so far just to build the second one centuries later? If you have any theories on this incredible new discovery, let me know in the comments below. Number 4. Mayan Figurine Factory. Archaeologists in Guatemala have discovered the largest figurine workshop from the old Maya world. The workshop was buried for 1,000 years before it was finally recently uncovered in the jungles of Guatemala. Researchers from Winthrop University say the Mayan figurine factory mass-produced small statues to be sold all across the Maya kingdom. Sadly, the factory was in a terrible state of destruction when it was found. Archaeologists were only able to recover around 400 figurine fragments, as well as a lot of molds that were used for the mass production. It's believed the figurines made here played a major role in Mayan politics and the Mayan economy. Leaders may have given these figurines to their allies to help strengthen relationships. At the same time, trading the figurines from village to village would have promoted economic trade. The factory, discovered at an archaeological site called Aragon, was likely active between the years 750 and 900. It didn't shut down until near the very end of the 300-year-long collapse of the Maya Empire. Number 3. Incredible new fossil site. It's true that the wasteland of Australia we call the Outback isn't really the most ideal place to support life, but many years ago it was. The Outback was a lush forest absolutely teeming with life. In fact, paleontologists recently found evidence that there was an abundance of creatures at an incredible new fossil site in New South Wales. Experts dug up the fossils of spiders, fish, insects, and birds dating back to between 11 and 16 million years ago during the Miocene era. Paleontologist Matthew McCurry says all these fossils prove that Central Australia was once a temperate rainforest bursting with thousands of different forms of life. Many of the creatures that have just been found at this fossil site are completely new to science. Researchers have discovered trapdoor spiders, giant cicada bugs, bizarre types of wasps, and a whole variety of fish that have never been seen before. The fossils also give a bit of insight into the future of the Australian continent. As you may already know, Australia still has a lot of lush rainforests. But 11 million years ago, the whole landmass was rainforest. As the temperature started to rise, the center began turning into a desert. As the temperature begins to rise again, it's looking like the rest of the forests on the continent could end up turning into wastelands as well. Number 2. The giant space rock of doom. Archaeologists have discovered evidence that a giant space rock destroyed a medieval city in just seconds. It happened 3,600 years ago, when a giant hunk of icy space debris hit the Earth's atmosphere at a whopping 38,000 miles per hour. The residents of this city in the Middle East, a place now called Tal el Hammam, were probably going about their daily lives when the rock exploded 2.5 miles above the ground. The blast caused by this rock was over 1,000 times more explosive than the atomic bomb that the US dropped on Hiroshima. Here's what happened next. First, anyone who had been looking at the explosion was blinded instantly. Air temperatures then rose from what was probably a balmy 70-degree day to somewhere around 3,600 degrees Fahrenheit. Everyone and everything would have immediately burst into flames. Swords and bricks melted. The entire city was literally on fire in a second. A few seconds later, the shockwave came. It moved at about 740 miles per hour, with the wind ripping apart the city piece by piece. Roughly 60 seconds after that, residual winds from the blast hit the city of Jericho. The walls came tumbling down, and the city burned. Was this the inspiration for the biblical story of Sodom? Archaeologists know this actually happened because of over 15 years of excavations. They had to look through materials found in the old city to confirm their suspicion of a deadly space rock. After compiling all their data, scientists have no doubt that there really was a great meteorite of doom that destroyed the city, killed all 8,000 residents, and burned down ancient Jericho. Number 1. A medieval wanderer. In 1985, the remains of a medieval Scotsman were found in the community of Blair Atholl. It happened during construction at someone's residence. The workers immediately stopped and called the police, thinking they had a crime scene on their hands. But as it turned out, the bones they found belonged to a man from around the year 400 AD. He became known as the Blair Atholl Man. Not much is known about this stranger even today. It was originally believed that he was part of the Pict civilization, an indigenous group who lived in eastern Scotland throughout medieval times. These guys were almost always in conflict with the Roman Empire as they tried pushing into their territory. It's believed the Picts even developed their own written language over 1,700 years ago. However, nobody has ever been able to find irrefutable proof of this. Also, recent studies of the stranger's DNA showed that he may have actually come from Western Scotland, moving across the country for an unknown reason and settling in the East. He may not have even been a local, but a wanderer, an original adventurer meandering about the country. Thanks for watching! Any recent incredible discoveries that you'd like to share? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up for more. See you later! Bye!